America's drawn to hate anybody that has too much success. It's just a part of our DNA. We like somebody, and just when they start to get too much success, we hate them. People hated Kobe Bryant because he had too much success. People hate LeBron James. He's like, oh, he's not Michael Jordan. But then you look at it, it's like, well, statistically, he's kind of better than Michael Jordan. But it's like we just hate people who win too much. People hate Floyd Mayweather. People just hate Tom Brady because Tom Brady's a winner.
Hey guys, welcome on into Drinks with Binks. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks. It is Super Bowl week, baby. Only a couple of days left until the big dance. And normally we would be on Radio Row, which is essentially media from all over the world, just packed into this room, kind of like cattle, really a COVID petri dish right now. So it's good that we're not there. We are staying home to stay safe. But last year we did over 35 interviews with some of the biggest names in sports. And surprisingly, one of those names is joining us to be able to talk about the Super Bowl once again. That is none other than Michael Bennett, Super Bowl champion with the Seattle Seahawks, 3-time Pro Bowler, 11 seasons in the NFL. Thanks so much for joining us here today, all the way from Hawaii. How are things going for you?
It's going good. Usually after 11 seasons, people can't speak, so that's good to know that it's not just football. It's also entertainment, too. No, it's going good. I think it's been a weird year, but I think things are getting better, and it's kind of, grounding. It's good that NFL's games are being able to be played because it's like there's so many things going around us, and I think, sports allows people to have happiness in a sense and be connected in some kind of sense. Sports brings people together. So, the NFL having these games and the Super Bowl still being played I think it's important to society and just general.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I say this every week, but hand up, I was surprised that we're having a Super Bowl being played at this time with the pandemic, but you're right, it is a very good distraction. And it's a way for us to be able to see the sport that we love being played. And as we do on Drinks with Binks, we've got a drink here today. What are we drinking and toasting to?
I'm drinking matcha green tea in Japanese ceramic cup. Toasting to just a new year, a good life, things are happy, wabi-sabi, feeling good, endurance for everything that comes in front of us. So toast, in the words of a great philosopher in the 21st century, featuring Drake, life is good.
I love it. Cheers. Anything to do with Drake is numero uno.
Except for when he ghostwrites.
We are sipping on some tea right now, which is just delightful. And it is an interesting time because we are watching Super Bowl week unfold. And it's so different because what we're used to is like the pomp and circumstance of media night and all these interviews. And it's also the celebration and the fans. There is none of that this year. We just saw Tom Brady talking on Zoom from his hotel room. There's nothing like this ever seen before. You've played in a Super Bowl before. What do you think are maybe the pros and cons of not having all of that?
I think it's important. Somebody like Tom Brady, who's always being badgered with questions, and he's always been very articulate with not giving away any things, keys to the game, but also not giving too keys away to his life. So I think for him, it's probably good for him. It's the ability just to focus on the game, focus on the strategy. What are we going to do? What are their strengths? What are our weaknesses? And how are we going to, win this game? So there's the pros in that. And it doesn't, because sometimes media day lets you like Marshawn Lynch and you can just say, I'm only here so I don't get fined. I think sometimes media day can get a little overwhelming because you have so many different types of media outlet. There's no judgment on it. What's their credentials? I don't even think there's less credentials to do a lot of things than to get into the Super Bowl and be a part of media, which sucks sometimes because people ask you some dumb questions. Can we say dumb on here? Is that still?
Oh, he can say a whole lot more than dumb. Yes.
Yeah, people ask you shitty questions that they already know the answer to. It's like a Midnight Shyamalan movie. Like it's like the questions and you know how it's going to end, and it's kind of like, why waste the time? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of pros to not having media day, but there's a lot of cons too, because I think the fans look forward to those questions and being connected to their favorite players and knowing the ins and outs and how they feel about the Super Bowl. But I think, with the way things are going, Zoom is good enough for the fans. And if it's good enough for the media, then I guess that's okay.
Yes. Speaking of some of those experiences at media night, I mean, you also have the people that are coming dressed up. They're doing these bits and shticks, and some of it lands, some of it doesn't. And you also have like the lights and the cameras all over you. Is it, is it fun at all in that way?
No, I think everybody tries to be like Andy Kaufman. They try to do these theatrics and they try to do these characters that they really can't really live in because they're not good actors. And it's actually funny though to see some of the ploys that people use, and they live in this dystopia of thinking that we're part of their shenanigans. But overall, I think the thing I miss most about it is just the camaraderie. I think sometimes you do sets with your teammates and it's kind of cool. And obviously you get to be on Jimmy Kimmel Live and Julie Stewart and stuff like that. So those are cool. Things are cool, but it's better when you're getting paid. But I think Media Day it's okay. It's not a bad thing, but I think Media Day inside of that little place that we were last time you said it was a COVID Petri dish. That technically would have been happening because they should have Colgate doing the sponsorship because it's like people have bad breath and then they're talking a lot of shit. So it's like metaphorically, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, especially all those people all together at once. I mean, you have to think that there was definitely some sort of spread of maybe coronavirus last year. We're not sure. Let's get into the good stuff, which is the Super Bowl. You really got your start in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are you then now supporting them in this Super Bowl? Well,
I support the Tampa Bay, and I don't have even though I started with Tampa Bay and I love the city of Tampa Bay. It's a pretty cool city. I don't know who I'm going for because Tom Brady's my boy, and then Frank Clark is my boy. So it's kind of like hard to choose, and it's kind of so I like to stay neutral. I'm like Switzerland when it comes to world wars in this place. So I'm staying neutral, but I think overall it's just going to be a great game because you have two great teams, and I love defense. And when I look at Tampa Bay. I was lucky to play for Tampa Bay because growing up, my favorite team was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I love defense. Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, Shelton Quarles, just everybody. You had just so many great players on that defense that I just love that defense when I go back into thinking about it. Greg Spires, just Simeon Rice. So those defense was something that I loved, and now that Tampa Bay is back to having that type of defense, it's enjoyable.
Right. So on that note of defense, and from your vantage point, you played on the same team as Tom Brady. You said he's your boy. What's the book on him? How do you stop him?
I think with Tom Brady, you have to really push and keep those guys flowing. And you look back at most of the games that Tom Brady's lost in the Super Bowl has been because of great pass rush. And I think, that puts a lot on Frank Clark and the rest of that defense and Chris Jones because those are two good players when it comes to pass rushing. But overall, the unit isn't as strong as Tampa Bay when you talk about Shaq Barnett and you talk about Jason Pierre-Paul. Those guys are two of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So I think both teams have a hard pill to swallow when you think about trying to stop Patrick Mahomes. But when you look at Tom Brady, I think the thing you have to do is get him uncomfortable in the pocket. And if you let him be comfortable and the amount of time that he's been in the game, he's Yoda, he's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's one of the greatest Jedi masters when it comes to knowing the game and what's about to happen. He's seen it all. So if you're not getting to him and just playing the nitty gritty and not trying to cheat and try to do different things, just line up in front of him and just rush him. And like I said, I think the Giants did it the best when they had Jason Pierre-Paul, OC, Mike Nukwa, and the great Michael Strahan.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned Tom Brady there, Obi-Wan Kenobi. What is something, I know I have to go to break, but very quickly, what is something that would surprise us about Tom? Because there's a lot of hate that goes on toward Tom.
America's drawn to hate anybody that has too much success. It's just a part of our DNA. We like somebody and just when they start to get too much success, we hate them. People hated Kobe Bryant because he had too much success. People hate LeBron James. He's like, oh, he's not Michael Jordan. But then you look at it, it's like, well, statistically, he's kind of better than Michael Jordan. But it's like we just hate people who win too much. People hate Floyd Mayweather. People just hate Tom Brady because Tom Brady's a winner, and every single week he shows up. The thing I think that's pretty cool about Tom Brady is that when I was around him in the locker room, he really loved architectural, and he loved homes. He loved looking at furniture. So I thought that was pretty cool for him to be that type of, and also food. I don't know how anybody eats avocado ice cream. I tried it and it's disgusting. I think some things you shouldn't change. Not that I'm talking bad about vegan people, but are people who do other things that substitute sugar. But sometimes sugar and meat cannot be substituted in things such as hamburgers, things such as chicken, and things such as ice cream. We don't want ice cream that doesn't have dairy. That in that case, it's not ice cream. It's something else. Don't tell me I'm eating a pulled pork sandwich when it's jackfruit. So at the end of the day, I think Tom Brady's ability to do what he does for food is kind of cool.
I love that. That was such a great rant. First of all, you were so political by being like, if you sugar substitutes and, meat, but also who's eating avocado ice cream? Like, this is a great bit. Keep this in your repertoire. You might use it again if you ever want to do stand-up comedy. You certainly have a concern about it. We got to go to break. We got a whole lot more to come with Super Bowl champion Michael Bennett. Don't go anywhere. This is Drinks with Binks.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Tony Gonzalez, and I just had Drinks with Binks. Bottoms up!
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jamel Hill, and I had drinks, with Binks, and I'm still standing, I'm sitting. See, that should let you know how drunk I am. Drinks with Binks.
Hey guys, welcome back into Drinks with Binks. I'm JSB, and we're so thrilled to be joined by Super Bowl champion Michael Bennett, who has retired since the last time we spoke at Media Week last year. And looking at just that Instagram post you put up, where you had the phrase, looking forward to the rebirth, the opportunity to reimagine your purpose, which is very profound. What does that look like now?
It's hard enough to be known for one thing or to be great at one thing, but to reimagine and try to do something else outside of that is very complicated. So for me, the search and journey for that is an important thing, an important process, because it's like sports can only do so much. And it's like, how could you make something that's sustainable in life? How could you make sustainable relationships? How could you make meaningful conversations between people around the world? And for me, that's kind of what that means for me, is like, what's next outside of what we've done in football and sports? And at some point, we can only hold sports to be just a small part of what the world really needs. And I think although sports brings people together, it also allows us to find a way to grow deeper conversations, not just about race, but how we treat women, how we do different things like that. So I think it's important for athletes to really dig into ourselves and just reimagine ourselves, not just only being a conduit of product, but also being the conduit of philosophy and understanding society and understanding how we can play a big role into a lot of different things outside of just the realm of what people expect from us.
Right, definitely. To, dive deeper into this, what in particular is something that you want to be a part of now?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going back to school and I'm studying architectural and sustainability and urban planning, because I really look up to people like Gordon Parks and Theaster Gates, what they're able to do into these communities and reimagining spaces in inner cities. I think how we look at our society and we look at communities and we are inspired by what we see outside. So the ability to transformate buildings or parks or community centers and giving people living spaces, whether it's working with homeless people and recreating a space with design and using creativity to inspire people, I think is an important notion to show people that, we all have a responsibility to our fellow men and women inside their communities, and just not the way of just thinking that writing people off. I think that with redesigning certain areas and redoing, libraries, redoing things that are required, the arts, even Julius Caesar in Rome, they had to make sure that the arts were a part of the society in a way that made sense for people to grow. And I think that's an important part of what I want to do with the things that in the future for myself.
Well, those are all very tangible ideas of trying to make change. And, you mentioned different underrepresented communities, marginalized people that don't necessarily have access to certain resources and whatnot. We know that you've been vocal about social justice when you're playing in the NFL and beyond. So we want to get into that and how the NFL has done in addressing a number of these issues when we return on the other side of Drinks with Binks. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Eric LeGrand, and I had Drinks with Binks.
What's good, everybody? This is Jerome Baker, Miami Dolphins linebacker. I spent my bye week with Drink with Binks. It was water, but you never know. You never know what was in it, but let's just say it was water.
Welcome back to Drinks with Binks. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks. We have 3-time Pro Bowler, 11-year NFL vet Michael Bennett with us here today. Of course, won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. And we've been discussing what Michael's now doing, that he has retired, and sort of what his vision is. And we know that you have been very vocal about social justice in the NFL. And even when we spoke last year in the interview that we had, you said, as athletes, before we can change the world, we have to change our sport. We saw earlier this year that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell took a different tone as it pertained to Black Lives Matter in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. How do you feel the NFL has done in terms of dealing with social justice in the league?
Oh, that's a deep question. And I don't like deep questions. I think it's very hard to really judge somebody yet, because I think time is the essence of what we can judge somebody on their merits, right? I think if we're looking at just for face showing and the ability to be on Instagram and see all those things, those are very short things that we can judge and say, hey, this is the change that we need to see. And I think a lot of times with these relationships with the NFL and its communities, it's always been transactional. And so at this point, it's trying to be transformational. And I think that takes time. And I think the NFL is taking steps to do those things. I think sometimes we want change to happen so fast that if it doesn't happen at the rate that we want to happen, then they're not making the effort. So I think with Roger Goodell and the NFL, I think they're doing some great things. I'm not going to say that they're not doing great things. I think there's always going to be the stigma that because Colin Kaepernick didn't get another opportunity, that the NFL isn't doing enough. And I think we have to really, as a community and as a whole, as a fan base, we really have to find out what really is the judgment of what really decides if the NFL is making true impact. And I think with the things that they're doing with the Inspire campaigns, the thing with Harry Edwards, the things that's working with women and having these conversations are all good steps. So I think Roger Goodell them are doing a pretty good job at this moment of really trying to make change. And I think, like I said, I think we're going to really see over the time, does it stick? Because I think sometimes we get caught in society of being part of symbols. And that's okay because, symbols are a part of life. If we look back and we code the world and look back, symbols were always a part of how we communicate. And we look back at hieroglyphics, we look back at our former man, Neanderthals, all the way back then, symbols were how we communicated. So I'm not saying that symbols are bad, but sometimes symbolism can lead people down the wrong path. And I think for us, we can't just be a part of just saying, putting in racism in the back of the end zone. It's about changing policy and doing all those things. And I think that it's not only on Roger Goodell, it's on the players. And I think the players are really taking those steps to really do the change too. So like I said, I think overall, not just judging Roger Goodell, but also what the players are doing, I think I would give it like a B+. I think they're doing what they need to be doing in some sense.
Right. The players have done a good job in terms of using their voice and their platform. But when we look at what's gone on this week in particular, in the last couple weeks, with seeing Eric Bieniemy going to his second Super Bowl, he has now been passed over for a head coaching job in 3 straight years. Even Andy Reid was saying he was disappointed by it. At this point, how can you explain not hiring him?
I think we can explain that. I think that's one of those anomalies that we are trying to figure out. It's almost like, did they walk on the moon kind of thing? Like, how is somebody like Eric Bieniemy, who's been led one of the top offenses over the last 5 years, who has one of the greatest quarterback talents and back-to-back Super Bowl, and gets overlooked for guys who haven't even competed or even understands of how to even run in the team, and being under somebody like Andy Reid. And I think we look back, and this is one of the things I was saying about changing when you talk about the change that I was talking about is also within the organization, the presidents, within the GMs, how diversity is represented in those spaces. And I think as we look at somebody like Eric Bieniemy and looking at guys like Zach Taylor, we have to look at Zach Taylor. We have to look at people like seeing Zach Taylor and the Texans, what the Texans did, and giving Josh McCown an opportunity to interview for the head coach. We have to think that race plays in some sense of that. You know, the ability for somebody who's of the opposite race has a longer lead time to fail. You know, with black coaches, you only get a short time. You know, we look at not only Eric Bieniemy, but we look at Chris Richard. Chris Richard, as a defensive coordinator, he was one of the top defensive coordinators, and he still hasn't had a job in the last 2 years. But you look at guys who haven't even ran a defense who are getting opportunities. And I think that just has to do with, that's the change that we have to see. But I don't know when that's going to happen, because I think that also black players, that's important for black players to bring up too, because I think a lot of times African-American players don't realize that one day they're going to be inside of the coaching and want to be coaches, and they're going to run into the same barriers that Chris Richard and Eric Bieniemy are running into, and they're going to want change, and they're going to want people to support them. And I think it really starts with the players supporting these coaches and not seeing it from the coach doesn't represent them. They're just a part of as much as what we're doing in society, we also have to do within our sport. I think my grandmother used to say it best, you know, charity starts at home. What you do in the world is important, but also how you treat your family is just as important. So I think how we treat the fellow coaches and our fellow men is important.
Right. So there is still a lot of work to be done within the NFL. But as you mentioned, the measuring stick by which we are looking at it is years and years, and it is deeply entrenched in that it's not just going to happen overnight. We have a whole lot more we want to get to with Michael Bennett. Stay tuned, guys. This is Drinks with Binks.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's Ryan Clark, and I had Drinks with Binks.
Well, guys, we've had an awesome time drinking and binking here with Michael Bennett. And Michael, where can we find you next?
You can find me all over. I'll probably be in the pool, the ocean. No, I'm joking. You can find me on Instagram, MosesBread72. But also, too, I'm working on a lot of different things. I'm working on currently with a pilot with HBO Max called Things That Make White People Uncomfortable with like John's World Productions. So, pretty interesting show, but I can't wait for it to come out. So that's pretty much me, man. Just doing things like that and focusing on stuff like that, really. And it's kind of interesting, too, because I think sometimes with how things work on TV is just a lot different than how things work on the football field. So getting used to not just being coached just like regular coaching, but also doing like too many emails. I'm just tired of emails. I'm over emails. Like emails are just like...
You and me both, buddy.
They're just like flies, or like they're worse. They're like mosquitoes. Because like flies, they come in and then they go away. But like mosquitoes, they like suck at you. Not for like
yes, like, and then more come, and then and then you're scratching it, and then it just gets worse. Yeah.
Even though you don't have any skin, because you didn't, and it's like just mosquitoes.
And it doesn't stop. It's always mosquito season in the media. So, put on that repellent, because it's only gonna get worse from here. So good luck with those emails. At least you don't have to take any hits to the head in media. You never know, though. It's a dangerous business sometimes. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you so much
for being here on the show. Guys, you know where to find all of our other episodes on YouTube at Fubo Sports. And until next time, bottoms up, bitches.
Enjoy yourself, people. Know thyself, Socrates.